Hello, and welcome to the Cybersecurity Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Christie, and this is episode 40. And today's topic is the Zero Trust Security Model. The Zero Trust Security Model is a cybersecurity approach. And when organizations also typically use this model, what's behind it is the trust issue, comes down to trust. And it challenges the traditional notion of trusting different entities based on their location within the organization, or if they're outside the organization's network. So that is the zero trust framework. So trust is not as never assumed, and the verification process is constant, and it's constant ongoing, regardless of where the person is, the employee is, the customer is, regardless where the user is. So the principle behind this is it operates on never trust and always verify. So what is the main goal of the zero trust model? The goal is to prevent unauthorized access to data and the services and ensure that access is given on a granular level as possible. Other goals are to enhance security, which is always a good thing, protect sensitive data, and mitigate cyber risk. Today's work environment, I would say most, not all, within the workplace is a hybrid environment. So working remotely and working in the office. And you have these connections of applications, data, and people. So you can see the access to these critical information must be protected. We can't assume that a member of staff is actually logging in from a said location and they're actually that person, they're actually that user. So they must find a way to constantly verify and never trust. What is the key thing here? So let's walk through this. So first of all, the identity of the user must be verified. So user authentication is a fundamental aspect of zero trust. So the users, the devices must authenticate their identity before accessing any resource. And as I said previously, this verification is an ongoing process. Zero trust model also uses the principle of least privileged access. And what this does, this again is access by giving users and the devices that they must have the minimal level of access that is necessary for them to do their job, to complete the job or their task. So any unnecessary permissions is restricted. And what this does, really, the effects of this is that it reduces the potential impact if there's a security breach at all. Microsegmentation. So again, the network, so you have a network and they're divided into smaller segments. And within these segments, each segment will have its own access control. The advantage of this is it reduces or limits lateral movement across the network, making it more challenging for attackers to navigate once they're inside the network. Because the objective of attackers is once they have reached your perimeter, then they go in and try to move laterally across your network with the objective of gaining admin rights. So the smaller segments enforces or reduces security risk. Let's say one segment is breached, then the others are secure or they will have time to further protect themselves. Continuous monitoring. So again, zero trust requires continuous monitoring across the network. So what does it monitor? It monitors the user's behavior. So for example, a user works 9 to 5, less than 9 to 5, and they typically log in 8:30 a.m. Typically finish about 5, yes, giving the employee half an hour. But if there's a change in the behavior pattern, if they're still contracted to work 9 to 5, however, the account is all logging in, let's say 10 p.m. at night, then that will obviously trigger a red flag. So there's ongoing monitoring and also device health check. So again, so any deviation from any of these behaviors then what this does is it will trigger an alert to either to the admin to get security admin so that they can further investigate to ensure that the organizations is not being breached. So with the zero trust model again, they're assuming they've been breached. Compared to our traditional security models that focus on the defense. Okay, let's protect the defense. With the zero trust, as I said, assumes that threats can come from both external and internal sources, because sometimes the threats are thinking, oh, there's hackers, people coming in, and sometimes the threat source is within. Okay, so with the shift in this mindset, the focus is towards early detection and containing the threat. Encryption. So there is encryption. So how does this work in this model? It's securing data in transit and at rest. So when the data is going from point to point, throughout that transmission, the data is encrypted. And these components are critical of zero trust. And what this does is ensures that even if an unauthorized entity gains access, the data will remain unreadable because it's encrypted. It will remain unreadable without the decryption keys. So there are many technologies that can be used to implement zero trust architecture. And some of them, people will be familiar with them already. For one, let me give one example. Multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, typically used today in most organizations, I believe. So the important part of the zero trust implementation is to ensure that the trust is not based on the network, as I mentioned before, the network segmentation, I would say. And how this works is obviously the zero trust. So the user must authenticate using usernames, passwords, which are by those two on its own are easily compromised. So there must be a third aspect or something that you have to ensure that the user can be identified and to reduce the impact of credential breach. Also, single sign-on as well. So users can sign in with one set of credentials and access all enterprise applications. Identity and access management is a key aspect of zero trust. This identity access management provides things like privileged access management, central identification of governance, but role-based attribute access controls, RBAC and ABAC, just-in-time access. This helps personnel to access systems on a need-to-know basis. The zero trust network access, also known as the software-defined perimeter SDP. And in this instance, it gives an advanced access solution and then allows users to connect on an application if they need to perform certain tasks within their roles. Zero Trust Network Access replace Zero Trust Network are replacements for virtual private networks. VPN does offer a secure connection and gives the user access to the entire network. However, with zero trust focuses on a particular segment. Other solutions are Secure Access Edge, which is a cloud-based service that provides a wide access networking, remote access as well, security functionality to the user. Again, what are the benefits of zero trust? So by implementing least privileged access and microsegmentation, the attack surface is significantly reduced and limits the potential impact if there's a security incident. Zero trust model provides a proactive and dynamic approach to security. And as we know, our threats are evolving, and it helps to adapt to evolving threats and vulnerabilities. Data protection, continuous monitoring and encryption. I mentioned encryption before. And also protects sensitive data. And what is it we're protecting against? Unauthorized access. With the changing environment, hybrid work, remote work, hybrid work, it helps to adapt to modern network environments. And again, we're focused on security here, so it ensures that those environments are secure compared to traditional networks where the boundaries are defined. It can help support compliance. So the zero trust models align with most regulatory requirements. Why? Because they enforce strict access controls and data protection measures. Whilst the zero trust model offers, as I've listed a few advantages, with the objective of enhancing cybersecurity, there are some disadvantages I would also like to mention because it's not all bells and whistles. So, implementing this model could be quite complex because you have to fully understand the technologies within or technological solutions within these type of models, and these can be challenging for organizations, especially if they have legacy systems. And implementing, and then you could not just implement, then you have to configure the necessary components and then break. I said, these are segments, breaking down a segment into micro segments and then monitor them continuously requires some time and having various resources in place to achieve this. Disadvantage, I would say, involves the user experience. So when you are going to change user behavior, and as we all know, I will say this, as humans, some of us are resistant to change. And what I'm saying is change here is that the organization is going to introduce new or rigorous authentication and access controls. And with these new experiences, it will take time to have some sort of acceptance. So the users or your staff may need to go through additional verification steps. And during this process, it can affect productivity because it will take time for some users to get accustomed to the system, and also user satisfaction. Zero trust model also can be resource intensive. And why is that? Because of the continuous monitoring. So not just monitoring, is analyzing the data that's been captured from the network in order to ensure that the threats are not actual threats. Okay. And with these continuous monitoring, the system has to provide ongoing resources. So it needs to compute these results. And again, it can be resource tiresome, or I'll say resource intensive. Training. So you've implemented, this system has gone live. Then you need to train the users on how to use the system, how to understand and how to adapt to the zero trust model. So again, training must be provided. What are we training them? Understand the importance of authentication, access controls, and other security measures. Now, I think some organizations, obviously, they will have some of these implemented because I mentioned before multi-factor authentication, single sign-on. So some of it will not be foreign. However, if there's going to be changes and with additional steps, especially for those organizations that do not have these solutions as part of the infrastructure, then it would take time for some behaviors to change. Cost. Now, the initial cost of implementing zero trust model includes acquiring and configuring necessary technology. So you're going to have to get the technology and configure it. And that time, it may take time, not just to configure, to test as well. And again, the ongoing maintenance and updates of the solution can contribute towards long-term expenses. Despite these potential disadvantages, many organizations find the benefits of adopting a zero trust model outweigh the challenges. So successful implementation requires careful planning, doing a thorough risk assessment, and having a commitment to ongoing improvements and adaptation. If you have enjoyed this episode, I greatly appreciate if you can follow our podcast and leave a comment. It would help us reach more people if you could share this as well. And please stay tuned for upcoming episodes where I will dive into very compelling topics or introduce a new guest. I'm looking forward to giving you more valuable insights. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and taking action. Thank you for listening.